Check one, check two. How's everybody doing on this Sunday? Oh man, you're just flying by. Let's see, checking on me. There I am. Looks like everybody's doing okay. So, got any tech questions? Just put them in the chat. If you got any cybersecurity questions, put them in the chat. So, we're about to get rolling. So usually what I'll do before I get started is give people a couple minutes to file in. And so I usually just go over the videos I did this week. So let's go over it. So the first one is, of course, what we're doing today. Kathleen Booth. She passed away at 100. RIP. She was created as assembly language. That's one of the first languages out there, and one of the hardest languages I ever done. I mean, I was in college in 86 through 90. So I want to say in 80, probably 87, I was taking assembly language. That's when you're talking about registers on the chip and shift left. That's when program. Now, all that stuff actually is what you compile your program to. What's up, casual economists? Glad you could join me. Just kind of going over the videos I did this week and give people time to file in. But yeah, so I just talked a little bit about Kathleen Booth. Once again, RIP. She was 100 years old. She did assembly language. That's one of the hardest programming languages I ever done. So I just wanted to give her a shout out. Just did a little background on her. Then this makes me think the world is flat, meaning it's all interconnected. African banks and telecom companies are getting hacked. So hacker group called Operator One. They were stealing. I think they stole 11 or 13 million dollars, which in dollars in third world countries is an astronomical amount of money. Right? It's a large sum of money in the U.S., but you take it outside the U.S. in dollars, that's a lot of money. So couple of the African telecoms got and banks got taken out, but we know that. I think this was Chile Observatory System. They got cyber attacked and shut down. So they another day they got stolen, but they were shutting down the observatory, looking at the planets. When I first was young, before I got into cybersecurity and kind of in computers, and what helped me get there was I loved planets and stuff when I was younger. Saturn and just the whole. Now, if you told me somebody can make a ton of money, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, I would think that would be super boring. He's an astrophysicist. I would think that would never go over big time on YouTube, but he got millions of followers, man. Of course, he's super engaging guy. I might do a video on him now. Got me thinking. I might do a video on that's a tech guy, so I might do a video on him now. I think about it. I'm always super engaged with him. Once again, if you got any tech questions or cybersecurity questions, just drop them in the chat. Of course, we're going to hit our AWS, talking about queuing. That's probably one of the most, I would say, one of the most important services inside AWS. And we'll get to that while and get to that. This kind of hurt my little feelings. What's up, PB, man? I'm glad you could join me. The government exposed they're using old Androids and iPhones, but the Androids were super old. Once again, go check out some videos I did this week. We got to do better, man. You would think just keeping up with the technology and patching, you would know that. Shout out to Engineering Cannabis. Yep, facts. The evolution of assembly language today, PHP, Java, Python. On top of that, even into the cloud, right? A lot of times when you compile all that stuff, it gets compiled in machine language code, right? That similar sits on, but that that was one of the raw languages at first. Like you said, it's all evolving, ever revolutionary, and stacking on each other to make it easier. All right, so that's the thing of it. I did this one because I think the United States is going to do it. The British government scanning internet devices for open vulnerabilities. The FBI did that one time for the United States. I think that's an overreach for something. Even if I got a vulnerability, don't patch it. Let me patch it. You could break something. But I think governments, because businesses are so lacking, and a lot of those businesses, critical infrastructure for the countries they're in, right? So if certain things, like we saw with Kaseya's oil company, right? if that would have stayed down for a long time, gas would have been $10 a barrel. Shout out to Helmet Chili. Lee in the house. Salute to the chat. So, but I think country's going to start doing that more. So I don't like it, but we'll see. I think CISA is going to start doing it more for the United States. Companies are so far behind, especially medium to small companies are so far behind in technology. So I think they think they're helping, their countries and their nations, right? Shout out to Top Adewande, creating Calendly, $1.4 billion company, doing it big. So just want to do a little background on him. When I first looked at a calendar program, I would never think it would, grow into something that big. But of course, he's got integration points in there. He's got payroll in there. He's got a couple other things that's going to make it grow into I think a full service, kind of like ERP in the cloud, right? Especially for small companies. It's not so big where it's getting bogged down like Oracle ERP, where they got full thing. He's just got enough to, I think, get your company up and running. So I think once again, he's killing it in the game with $1.4 billion company. And Calendly, a lot of people tell you to hit their Calendly so you can sign up for consultations with them, right? And this one, working on my open source tool. I'm gonna do an open source playlist and put out the open source tools in there, and trying to hopefully go back over them one by one and just go over which ones are important, which ones you can use, and all that though. So I think once again, shout out to the open source tool. This one was AWS S3 Scanner. You see scanner secrets. There's a lot of companies aren't. They're misconfiguring their S3 buckets and they're leaving credit cards in there. Capital One left some customer information in there with credit cards and social security numbers. They got a big fine for that. So this tool helps you scan and make sure you setting those up right. Let's see what PB got in there with the quick question. Quick question: if you're using SQS with ALB and have more than one server, how does the SQS deal with multiple polling? The SQS, and I actually got a slide on that. We're gonna get in there. If I use SQS, you could use it with an ALB. Usually the architecture is, if you're going to lose an application load balancer, the target actually is going to be a SNS queue, and the SNS is actually going to put it into the queue, right? Because we talked about SNS as pub and the sub. So the SNS will be a publisher to the SNS, and the SQS will be a subscriber to the publisher. And really, the polling is done on the back end. A lot of people use Lambda or some code base to poll. So one of the things is your Lambda will be polling. It's actually a toolkit in there. You say, I'm using Lambda with a SQS, so it creates a polling. So and we'll talk about it. Every 5 seconds, it'll poll the queue and pull it off, right? And the cool thing about that is, and we're going to get in that a little more, since it's decoupled, long as it's in the queue, your backend can take care of it long it wants to process it, right? So even if we're doing, shout out to Engineering Academy, doing some kind of machine learning or IoT information, you got billions of transactions, they're just sitting in a queue until your EC2 or your Lambda or your database pulls them off the queue in the time it wants to process them. There's no rush, right? Usually if they're tied together synchronously, if I had a trillion IoTs, I would have to scale up my backend at a trillion, right? A lot of times you can't scale that quickly, but if I put a trillion in the queue, my EC2s can take 24 hours to process them because the queue is almost unlimited. So, and we're going to dig in a little bit on that PB, but let me know if that makes sense. So it'd be in the queue, your backend EC2 or your Lambda, which could be Java or PHP, it's just processing out the queue in the time it wants to. The queue's just holding them, and that's the decouple. So whatever you set up your Lambda to be short or long polling to pull those out. And I got a couple architectural diagrams we're going to hit on inside the SQS lecture that we're about to get to. So let's get on over. Let me know if that was a good starter, BB, if that made sense. I'm a little tired. I'm rambling already. County can't turn to analytics for time. No, true. That's one of the big parts why I support 1.4 billion, and Engineering Cannabis is correct with that. You take your analytics on your time, your HR2. The two is I don't need a administrative assistant. I don't need a service. Calendly is the service, right? In the old days, your secretary was scheduling your calendar. call you or you're scheduling your calendar, you have to check it, log into the company system. Now it's all on the internet. A lot of times when they schedule it, it'll send you an email or a text letting you know somebody scheduled it. And two, like engineering cannabis says, you get your analytics of how long is it taking. Two is you can use it as a sales funnel, right? You got your customers signing into your Calendly. Uh, did they buy it? What was your hit rate? What type of customer it was, right? You can put all that in the calendar. Let's see, I was doing some SQL developer trying to hook up my IDE to my Oracle RDS. I struggled a bit. That wasn't going this well. I was laughing today. So we all up, but now I'm an old Oracle guy, so I was looking at it. Yeah, I think my my restream on like it's throwing a few errors. Oh, let's get that shut down. When I fired it up, it's coming back. Like I said, I was shutting some stuff off. I have too many things in the background I'll be working on. That's Adobe. I was working on a few videos. I think I was using all the memory up. So let me get a couple of these apps closed. Open up any more. Like I said, I got Discord running. Again, I hope everybody's having a good day. Like I said, I think we rolling. I shut that down. Cancel. It says we're back on. Let's get started. We'll talk a little bit, like PB talked a little bit about polling, and just hit some high levels real quick. Make sure I'm still kicking it on my live stream. Yep. I'm chilly. Look like we're still going. Oh, I see like I kicked a few people out. If I kicked you out, I hope y'all come back. Let's see. It said 2 of us here, so let's keep going. So AWS Simple Q Services, the SQS. Once again, Qs was one of the first things they actually created, and I think I had a slide on there. So if you looked at that, just publishers, subscribe to Lambdas, failed events, successful event destination, right? I mean, you got targets on there. So let's see what's going on with it. So Q, I think it was Q and EC2 was the first thing it started like around 2006. Async message communication, cases data processing, real-time event processing, and ad hoc job queuing. The weird thing is I was talking to some old people. I've been doing Oracle queuing since probably 2006 when that came out. What we used to have is big Oracle databases on the back end. And if you wanted one project to talk to the other one, you would just put in an Oracle queue and the other Oracle on the other side will read it off, right? Too. And if you needed to do some maintenance, you could shut it down and it would just, all those transactions, unless it was too many, would stack up in the queue until you started the other one and reading. So queuing is not something new, right? Like I said, Oracle had that forever, right? So we're going to look at some of the use cases too of queuing, like PB was talking about. And this is just high level. Producer sends a message to the Amazon queue, which is a fully managed queuing service with reliability, continuously staging the volume. We can actually encrypt it using AWS KMS with HTTPS and TLS. On the other side, we can talk about consumers, right? This could be a Lambda. This could be a SNS consumer. This could actually be a database. There's a lot of consumers. Kinesis is some for IoT events. So there's a lot of producers you can put on the queue and a lot of consumers. And the cool thing is decoupling. So I can scale this, even though it's lightweight. Like if I'm getting 1 million web page hits, you put it on the queue, then my backend can take its time as processing, right? So I don't have to scale as quickly or put as much pressure on the back, because some of these jobs could be a long running, like engineering candidates would say, I could be doing analytics and HR analytics on time. This could maybe take 15, 20 minutes or even 30 minutes to run, depending on the job, where I got millions of these coming in, right? So as long as these get in the queue, I can take my time on the back end. And two is I could scale out my back end instead of having one consumers. I got millions here. I could have 10 million here, but I might only have a million consumers on the back end. One is, once again, the time it is. And two is I could be scaling on a budget instead of bottling on a budget, scaling on a budget. Maybe I only want to do 20 EC2 Linux boxes because I don't want to pay a gazillion dollars. I can just spend up 20. Now it's going to take me longer, right, to do it. But if I got a big batch process at night, the back end can take as long as it wants, right? As long as my SQS is, storing all events as they come in. So we're going to dig into that more. So once again, a quick producer and consumer back in. Once I said, there's a lot of, and we'll talk about a few servers the SQS does and a few big time consumers on the back end. Once again, you want to decouple the application so you don't have to scale both of them at the same time. And that's the beauty of it. Like we said, standard queues, unlimited throughput. Standard queues supports a nearly unlimited number of transactions per second per API. That's for a standard queue. And that's the beauty of it. At least once delivery, a message delivered at least once, but occasionally more than one copy of the message can be delivered. Best effort. Ordering, occasionally message might be delivered in an order different from which they were sent, right? So as long as your application can handle those requirements, and everybody knows I've been getting my AWS certs. So when I got my associate architect, they asked quite a few questions on the queue about, okay, what type of queue, if you can handle messages coming in a different order than they were received, right? So those are some of the trick questions they try to get you with it. And at the end, I put like 5 questions on some of my practice tests with scenarios when you were picking SNS queue. So like PB said, we're going to look at some of the scenarios at the end. A FIFO queue, right? There's a standard queue and a FIFO queue. High throughput by default. A FIFO queue supports up to 300 message per queue and can support up to 3,000 message per second. If you require higher throughput, you can enable high throughput mode for FIFO on the SQS console, which would support up to 30,000 message per second with batching, or up to 3,000 message per second without batching. A lot of times when you batch, you can put 10 messages into your queue in a batch sequence, right? So now we're talking about scaling. Exactly once processing, a message is delivered once, it remains available until a consumer processes and deletes it. Duplicates aren't introduced into the queue. It's a first in, first output delivery in which the messages are sent and retrieved strictly in preserved order, which is FIFO, first in, first out, right? That's what the acronym stands for at the bottom. So once again, it's just funny because I've been doing Oracle queues forever, right? So part of the queue infrastructure is a dead letter queue. Handling that a consumer has not successfully processed with a dead letter queue. When a message maximum receive count is exceeded, Amazon SQS moves the messages to a dead letter queue associated with the original queue. The ideal queue must be the same type as the source queue, standard or FIFO. You can expect a message in the dead letter queue to understand why your consumer has not successfully received it. Once you have remediated the issue, you can move the message from the dead letter queue to the respective source queue, right? So what a dead letter queue is, sometimes, so your deal queue is you try to process the messages 3 times or 20 times. The message could have been misconfigured. Some event in there that you're using to trigger off that event maybe somehow got damaged, or the programmer messed it up when they put in the queue. So you don't want to lose a message. You go into the DLQ until you get down there to expect it, right? So usually when you do a workflow transaction, shout out to Engineering Cannabis, we doing a workflow. We're setting it up. we're setting up the pipeline for him to get the information. Go check AI and ME. If we talk about machine learning, if for some reason the data in the data fields of the machine learning, which is an event, got messed up and the DLQ didn't know where to send it, right? If the queue didn't know where to send it, we'll put a dead letter queue. Then the operators, we always have operators or testers to go look at that. They can figure out what was wrong with that. Did it get damaged, or is it just a certain scenario we just didn't expect to come through our pipeline? Maybe somebody changed a different event type. We didn't know what it was, so we couldn't process. Put in DLQ. We fixed our queue, fixed our lambda, fixed our code. Now we know what to do with it. We take it out the DLQ, push it back into the regular queue. Then hopefully it gets processed this time and gets to where it needs to go, right? But you don't want to lose messages, so you always have the DLQ set up. So if something's processed and we're confused, or we didn't have that scenario or user case, or a lot of times there's edge cases you just miss, right? It'll get put in the DLQ, and we can figure out how to handle it, right? So in the real world, we used to have them. It goes into the DLQ. We in our sprint, we'll figure out what that edge case was, get it programmed in there, get it tested, probably take a couple of those records, drop them in test, get it figured out, roll out the new code, hopefully with a cloud formation, then run it back through. Then the operators can drop it back in there. Hopefully run a night batch just for those particular transactions, keep an eye on them, and once again, get them where they need to get to. Right? So let's talk about a visibility timeout. Visibility timeout is the amount of time a message is invisible in the queue after the reader picks it up, the message. If the job is processed within the visibility timeout, the message will be deleted. If the job is not processed within the visibility timeout, message will become visible again and could be delivered twice. The maximum visibility timeout for Amazon QS message is 12 hours. Right. So when we put it on the queue, the timeout really means is we got 12 hours to process that message, or it's gonna get put really on the DLQ, right? Because we don't know what to do with it, and it ran out of timeout, right? So a lot of times we put the message cannot be returned, right? You delay seconds. A lot of times you're gonna put it on the queue. You don't want it visible to your back end yet. You want it to sit on the queue. You want to give the your workers on the back end time to process it, right? So that's why it's a delay seconds before it comes visible, right? That gives your back end processing, like PB, your scale out, or how you want to poll it to pick up that message, right? So you get a visibility timeout, right? So the message visible, and after that timeout, message is invisible, then it'll come visible again, right? So you put it a time on there, right? A lot of times it's usually 12 hours. Most time I think we set it to 2 or 3. Usually when we put it on the queue, we're trying to pull it out and work it ASAP, right? So we really don't want to keep it on. And if something wrong with it, we want it to drop to the DLQ so we can figure out what's wrong with that transaction. So we don't want to leave it on there for 12 hours. Long polling, right? Long polling uses fewer requests and reduce the cost, eliminates the false empty response by querying all the servers. SQS waits until a message is available in the queue before sending the response. Short polling does not wait for the message to appear in the queue. If the query only is a subset of the available servers for a message based on a weighted random execution, short polling is the default receive message time is set to 0. So if you see there, long polling waits for time and eliminates empty response. Short polling is a subset of the servers that may not return a message. So if I poll and there's no queue in there, I'm just going to send a message and say, basically, send it to the back end. It's going to be blank, right? We know nothing's there. It's not going to operate. But once again, you get those polling hits because it's hitting a short time. Most people do long polling because usually you can use like 30 seconds. In IT, 30 seconds long. In real life, it's not long. So hopefully that gives it time for something to come, gets puts on a queue so it'll work. So technically, if you're not getting a lot of messages or records, or a lot of times they call them envelopes on the queue, you probably shouldn't be using queuing to begin, right? So queuing is when something you getting flooded, right? So you needed somewhere to stack up. If you're not getting flooding, I would just probably put on an SNS queue. So when you put some in, it would automatically get operating, right? So that's when we're going to talk a little bit about what architecture and when to use what. Not today, it's probably going to be later. We're going to touch on it a little bit, but uh, what services should you use in a large architecture and when should you use them, right? But that's the difference between long and short polling. Eliminate overhead with no upfront costs without needing to manage software and maintaining infrastructure. Reliably deliver volumes of large volumes of data at any level of throughput without losing messages or needing other services to be available. Securely send data between applications and centrally manage your keys using an AWS key manage. Scale elastically and cost effectively based on the usage so you don't have to worry about capacity panning and pre-provision. Once again, if I got a queue, my scaling doesn't have to be super tight or super large in the back end because my messages are going to be waiting in the queue, right, until I get to them, right? So that's the beauty of queuing, right? You're going to decouple that. We always talk about the key manage because if we're doing anything with credit cards or health information with the queue, or I do a ton of IRS work, right? You want that data has to be encrypted and secure, so you will use your AWS key management. So that's going to be a video coming up too, is key management and just using that for encryption because a lot of services use it. So some of the services you can use with SQS: Amazon Redshift, which is their data warehouse; DynamoDB, which is their NoSQL; relational database services, Oracle, MySQL, Postgres is kind of the big trifecta there. Of course, MySQL is in there. EC2, right, which is the Linux scaling. ECS, which that's my 2023 is, which is Docker and Kubernetes, right? I, I will say the future. That's now though. I'm a little late. I gotta get a little better with my Docker and my Kubernetes, right? Especially in AWS, you need to spin up one of those containers if you're working on large projects, right? I'm a Java guy, so I usually lean towards Docker. So AWS Lambda, which is basically just code snippets that run. That's serverless. So I put my Java code out there, PHP. Once I load it up in Lambda, when that gets executed, right, it's going to spin the server up underneath. I don't have to manage any of that. And Amazon S3, right, which is just file system, object file system that stores any type of data, right? So all of those are consumers or producers that you can hook up to SQS when you're trying to scale, right? One of the things, and I'm gonna probably do that this week, is the architecture of Twitter has a ton of queues in it, right? When you subscribe to someone, right, to get their tweets, a lot of that on the back end is done with queues to because it's billions of people moving around, right? They can't scale up that quick, so they put that stuff in queues and let other things pull it off in the queue, right? So you can sub and to stuff to pub and sub and subscribe. So on Twitter on the back end, that's what their infrastructure looks like. So work queues decouple components of distributed applications that may not all process the same amount of work simultaneously. Buffer and batch operations add scalability and reliability to your architecture and smooth out temporary volume spikes without losing messages or increased latency. Request offloading moves slow operations off to an interactive request path by enqueuing those requests. So if I got something that's, once again, shout out to Cannabis, that's machine learning, a big job that needs to take 3 or 4 hours, right? I can put that in the queue and pull that off as I need to, as I get resources to work on it, right? A lot of times too is, even though it's a queue, I can put in a queue and I can run a large batch job later, at night on a different server, right? That's much more has much more memory, much bigger footprint. Is the queue server similar to Postman? Yeah, very similar, right? You're just gonna put it on there, pull it off. So yeah, it's super similar to that, Jan. Let's see, using it with other, like we said, You could find SQS, and we talked about simple notifications, right? Which is pub and subscriber. So I can pub and subscribe, and once my subscribers, I can put those into a certain queue for that certain subscriber, and I got a chart with that, right? So I can pair those together, right? So I put it in a pub. I publish it, right? Then the I I publish it. Then that publisher can put it on a queue. Then it could get work later at when it needs to, right? Because queues you're gonna break up into different categories, right? Proprietary, something you want to do ASAP, something you want to do later, right? So you can have different queues and you would publish them to those queues. And the back end workers will pull those off. Man, I got to get some energy. I'm struggling today. What is Ricky? Salute. I appreciate that, Ricky. Tell them come on anytime. I appreciate that, man. To send identical copies to multiple queues in parallel. Priority, use separate queues to provide prioritization of work. Scalability, because message queues decouple your process. It's easy to scale up to send and receive rates of messages. Simply add another process. So right there too is we can set up priority to different queues, right? So if somebody's paying for something, you have a free service, right? Your pay service queue is gonna get it'll be probably short polling. Then your free service will be long polling. You might even batch that at night, but now we can set priority onto those queues of when they get processed and when they get worked. What's up, Black Dub 21? Salute. Resiliency, part of your system fails. It doesn't need to take the entire system down. Message queues decouple components of your system. So a process that's reading a message from a queue fails, the message still can be added to the queue to be processed when the system recovering. That's one reason we start using queues at DoD is we had a lot of systems work interoperability that we're talking and sending messages. So if you got them just connected synchronously, if I took one part of the system down, I had to take the other part. But if I got a queue, I could take this system down and have this part up. As long as it can put it in the queue, then when I start my back-end process of my other job, those messages or envelopes in the queue, I could pull them off and work on them, right? So I don't have to take my whole system down simultaneously, right? I could pick which part of the systems I want to take down. So when you get, that's one huge benefit you get with queues, and you start putting that with microservices, right? Each microservices can have its own queue. And that way I could take a service down once again without taking the whole system down. All right, so if you see there, let me take that off. Super cheap. I call it inexpensive, right? SQS. First million requests is free. First standard and 1 million to 100 billion is 40 cent per request. Per 40 cent per million requests. So I mean, if you doing 100 billion or something, you should be making some money, right? So it's dirt cheap. That's one of the reasons people want to use queues, right? Amazon has so much disk space and technology, right? Your first million is free, and million to 100 billion is 40 cent per million requests, right? So long as you don't have any anonymous attacking you or something making you spend money, I don't think you would ever touch those numbers. And the cool thing too is with automation, if we got over a million and we thought it would start costing us money, you could actually just shut down your SQS server until you figured out what was going on with it. So you would actually have automation out there tracking your costs. So nobody should go out there and you get a runaway bill. That's what we hope we won't get. Shout out to Citizen Lou. He got a big bill from Amazon. Somebody hacked him one time. So ever since we had that combination, I'd be really trying to set up my automation so I don't get a big bill. Most people here know I do federal compliance for cybersecurity. So we always talk about compliance. So is it Amazon PCI, which is credit card compliant? The answer is yes. It's PCI DSS level 1 certified. Is it HIPAA compliant? Oh, well, yes, it can do HIPAA. It has a BAA, which is just a business agreement between two parties. So it does it's been approved for most federal work, right? For especially for big jobs. That's how Amazon make their money, right? So and that's one thing I do a lot, and I'm gonna start doing that. And we mentioned it last last stream. I'm gonna start picking services and kind of walk through how would you do an assessment from a federal level for a particular product. One product. So I'll start picking products, and once again, what does a security assessment look like? How would you go about it? And if it was for a federal level, what particular parts would you look at to make sure it was validated to do that type of work? Right. So let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out a way to send SES using SNS SQS 100K users a week. Okay, you want to send simple notification to a queue. What? Let me look up SES. I think I know what that is. AWS. Oh, email service. Okay. I actually got that coming up. PB, you could let me know if you want to come up. I'll drop you a link. I think I got that on one of my slides coming up. So we're going to start talking about different architectures because SQS as its service is pretty small. The things you could do. You want to send an email using SNS and SQS. Yeah, that's coming up. I'll walk through that, PB. If you want to come up, you can ask or put it in the chat. We can make sure we hit that. So that's right there is the API gateway. You can call directly to a SQS, put it in the queue. So this probably would be a web service call, HTTP post or get. You can actually post those directly to SQS queue, right? So, and I think this is pretty much kind of what PB was talking. He's talking about we're loading up an image on this particular one, which could be an email, which the email going to SNS. The SNS is going to go to the queue, and in the back end, you can here where we're doing pictures. So this queue could make it a thumbnail. This queue could be doing facial recognition. Shout out to Engineering Cannabis. We're doing facial or scanning metadata to figure out who sent it, if it came for a company. A lot of times on your pictures, if you don't take it out, your longitude and latitude are on there. So right, these are different queues coming for different SNSs, right? So these are publishing, and these are subscribed to that queue. And SNS could be email inside that queue. So that would be close to PB setup right there. The question is, I guess, what's initiating your email, PB? Are you manually just sending an email that's going to kick it all off? This is another one. We put the dead letter queue on that. Shout out back out to PB. SNS, that could be your email. That could be you putting a lot of different producers, right? Once again, it's putting a queue. Then two is if we didn't process it right, we want to put it on the dead letter queue. Then one of the things could be subscribed to your queue would be the Lambda, which is your programming. I'm a Java guy, so I usually roll Lambda, Java. JavaScript is huge. You can run in Lambda. Then once again, your Lambda could put it in your database or send it to a third-party API, Twilio or some other API, banking API. Your Lambda could call and put it on there. So once again, I think this is kind of similar to that. So yeah, and in SNS, especially inside AWS, you actually can put send an email to kick that off. So you would have to get the SNS to read the email. Usually they just put the event on there, but I've actually seen them, especially with Java clients, read the email that could put it on the SNS that put it in the queue. So if you got 100,000 a week, so what you doing? 10,000 a day, 15,000 a day, PB. If you're talking about 7 days a week, even 20,000, if you spread out over 8 hours a day, 24 hours a day, even at 24,000, that's less than 1,000 an hour. So that can easily scale up to that. I think that'll actually be pretty cheap, to be honest. Why you want to put it on a queue, PB? With it going that slow, I would go SNS and I would go SNS straight to Lambda or put it where you need to do. What are you doing with it once you put it on the queue, PB? Are you what are you doing here? Once you get in the queue, usually you gotta do something with it. What are you doing with it on the back? If you can't tell me, just say I can't tell you. It's cool. You won't hurt my feelings. I'm an old guy, man. I know sometimes, What are you doing with it once you get it on the queue? Because usually, once again, you pulling out the queue to do something with it, PB. And two is once again, if you put it in the S3 bucket, there's actually a event saying I uploaded something in the bucket, and when I put that in the bucket, I can save that file, that JSON, that flat file. I can actually save that on the queue or put a pointer in the queue to point back in the S3 bucket, right? Then run that on my Lambda, right? Then whatever I need to do with it. Right? I always give a shout out to Engineering Cannabis. Put a machine learning, put in the machine for in there, Matt, send that to Engineering Cannabis, then he could do something with it. But once again, when I drop it into a S3 bucket, right, there's an object create. And with that, I could fire out a Lambda, put it into the queue, have the Lambda put in the format, put it in the queue, and once again, put it in a database, put it in MySQL, put it in DynamoDB, right? Neptune. Oracle got a ton of databases, right? So what am I going to do with it, right? I'm glad PB bid it. So now we're talking about architecture, right? We kind of flowing right in there. And once again, PB's thing is once it goes to SNS, if that's the email, I can run it through some code. And like you said, these queues can be different priorities. These queues can take different part of messages. One part could be accounts payable, accounts receivable, and inventory, right? It comes in as one message as an inventory. Somebody ordered this up, but once I pull it off the queue or the email, I can strip out and put on, okay, this is accounts payable. This is accounts receivable. Once again, this is inventory, right? Or whatever that is, right? From a processing standpoint. Short polling, long polling, right? I can do whatever I want with those once I get them in the queue. So once again, it says user put stuff in EC2. Then we put them on the request queue, work them in the back end with auto scaling. This could be our web server. This right here could be our app server with the Java running old school, inserting into a database. And once we get done, we could put on a response queue. You could go back to the receiver, then send it back to the user, right? You got web sockets. That's how they work with those long polling Java apps. Right. So I put it in there, take a couple minutes, then it'll push it back to you saying you're done. Right. Getting push notifications on the phone now, right? Super popular. So that's something we can do. And that's hopefully something I can do in the future. Shout out to Before the Billions. He's doing a Java class. So I'll probably take it and start doing that up. It's for email newsletters using PHP. No, that's cool. That's cool. So once again, you put your PHP there, put in the queue, or put your PHP in the back end, work it. So yeah, that'd be cool. No, that's definitely doable. Unless you're doing it for which I'm always doing stuff for learning. I would just go SES to SNS, then just push it out. I don't even know if I would put it on the queue unless you're gonna take it offline. This is one too, going a little backwards. If you put it in Aurora, once your database does what it wants, then I can push it back. Because Aurora, once you get finished, you can have it called a Lambda Sync, which is basically a Lambda program. Then once my Aurora application gets done processing, I could put it on a queue and send it out to a third party, tell somebody I'm done with something, right? Or put it in the queue because I'm sending it to another part of the application, right? That's maybe done or handled by another division or another team, right? So you can actually have your database, call a Lambda, put it on the queue. Then that queue, the subscribers in different system, once again, a third-party API or different division, right? They got different systems and we're just communicating off the queue, right? As a interoperability thing. Once again, we used to do that at Oracle. We had different databases, but we always using Oracle. So we just did queuing on the back end, right, to work between different teams and big divisions. Right? So here's some of the questions. Once again, I'm kind of studying. So most people know I got 4 AWS certifications. I'm trying to get a couple more. Then I'm 2023. I'm hoping to get on my CISP. So I don't know if I want to do it, but I told myself I was going to get the CISP in 2023. So I'm finishing up my AWS in 2022. So I'm studying for the DevOps. No, I'm sorry, SysOps associate. Then I was going to take architect, the architect professional, then the DevOps professional, right? So these are some of the associate architects. So since you're a solution architect at a media company, you need to build an application, kind of like PB, stack that can receive customer comments from a sporting event. The application expects to receive significant load that can scale up to millions of messages with a short space of time following a high profile match. As you are unsure of the load required for the database layer, what is the most cost effective way to ensure the messages are not dropped? Of course, we're talking about queues, so the answer is going to be SQS. So create an SQS queue, modify the application to write to the SQS queue, launch another application instance to poll the queue, and to write the message to the database. I think that's what PB was asking from the polling up front. What would do that, right? So and this is a picture of it, right? So you got your auto scaling app right there with your web tier. It's going to put it into the simple queue. Then your app tier on the back end is going to poll your queue and pull it off, right? The EC2 instance polls SQS, right? So Amazon Simple Queue is a web service that gives you access to message queue. The SQS offers a reliable, highly scalable hosted queue for storing messages and transit between computers and used for distributed and decoupled applications. The following diagram depicts a decoupled application using Amazon SQS. This is great use for SQS as the messages do not have to over provision the database layer or worry about messages being dropped, right? So your backend, a lot of times your database is going to be the slowest part. So if if you would link these directly to the database would have to scale. And two, a lot of times on AWS, when you your database has credits. So if you scale your database up to 1 billion, you're gonna get a big charge because they only give you so many transactions you can use per hour, right? Of course, you can always buy more, but if I could put them on a queue and just take my time over 10 hours, right? I can keep my bills small and make sure I don't overuse my credits, right? It's called bursting, right? They'll let you burst, but if you keep bursting, meaning you're getting a lot of transactions, you're going to get a big bill, right? So if I put them on a queue, I don't have to burst. I can just let my back end work when it, at the level it can sustain for my budget. I'm gonna start calling it processing on a budget instead of balling on a budget. Processing on a budget. Let's see. JM, were you ever interested in working on front end, professor? Yeah, I've done everything. When I first started, I actually started off doing it was called Oracle Forms and Reports. So you would make a form. They were ugly back then, but yeah, I should do Oracle Forms and Reports. So I did a lot of front end. I did a little Java front end. Now front end, when I say front end, which I'm not a very artistic person, that's getting the coloring right, make it look polished. I can do a Java form, right? I can make it functional, right? So I got the elements on there. I got them validated. I got the JavaScript working, but I'm not artistic enough, so I can never polish it off. So if you talk about front end, I've done, like, once again, I've done Oracle and Java forms that are basic, right? That you put the accounting information in, it would pay the retiree, then we would give it off to somebody to make it polished and make it that look. So JM, and I talked about this. I've been in the game for 30 years. I've been a Java programmer, Oracle Forms and Reports programmer, web admin, DBA. I do compliance. I've probably done everything in IT except SOC. And of course, I've never done machine learning, artificial intelligence. So anything else besides SOC, I'm trying to think SOC. And I've never been an essay either. I've done a lot of work on Unix. I've just never been the essay where I actually carved the disk up. Now you don't even need to do that. Amazon carves the disk up for you. So now, JM, yeah, I've done a little front end stuff. Back then, it didn't have to be as polished as it does now because, once again, we were just taking accounting information. Another scenario: client The client is in the design phase of developing an application that will process orders for their online ticketing. The application uses a number of front-end EC2 instances that picks up orders and places them in a queue for processing another set of back-end instances. The clients would have multiple options for customers to choose the level of service they want to pay for. The client has asked, how can we design the application to process the order and prioritize ways on levels of services to the customer? Once again, if you got VIP or you just a regular user or you got the free tier, right? You would create multiple SQS queues, configure the front end application to place the orders into the specific queues based on the level of service requested. Once again, VIP, regular, or free, configure the back end instance to sequentially poll the queues in order of priority. So that's it. The best option is to create multiple queues, configure the application to place the order in a specific queue. You can then configure the backend instance to poll these queues in the order. And we show the different short, long, and short polling, right? So that will help you with the priority, right? On how long it takes and when you will get it, right? So. Here, I'm gonna drop the link if anybody wants to come up. We winding down. SQS is pretty short. I like doing those short ones though. Once again, that lets me delve into the service a little more. Once again, I'm trying to switch over to AWS. I do a lot of reviews on AWS. I just want to switch over. I'm probably gonna try to switch over to DevOps probably in the next 2023. I probably try to switch over to DevOps or something. Get more into engineering. Like I said, I've done compliance for the last probably 7 years. I get a little bored, so I think I want to switch back up. Now, this is a good one. An auto scaling group is unable to respond quickly enough to load changes, resulting in lost messages from another application tier. The messages are typically 128 KB in size. What is the best design options to prevent the messages from being lost? Everybody knows what that is, right? It's a queue because we're talking about queuing, right? Explanation: in this circumstances, ASG is the auto scaling group cannot launch EC2 instance fast enough. You need to be able to store the message somewhere so they don't get lost while the EC2's instances are launched. This is the classic use case for decoupling, and SQS is designed for exactly that purpose. The SQS is a web service that gives you access to message queues that stores message waiting to be processed. It offers, once again, reliability, scalability, and can be used to create a distributed app. Because, I think I got a screen of that coming up. This is the same one. It's talking about the messages, but of course, this one, it has to be in a certain order, and you couldn't have duplicates, right? So we got to do a FIFO. Oh, we got to do a FIFO queue. Oh, my name is over. We got to do a FIFO queue. Instead of a standard queue, it'll be a FIFO queue. You got to remember when you do a FIFO queue, you get 300 messages per second. Unless you batch, then you get 30,000. A lot of times when you take those questions, it's going to be something, messages, how long can it be in the queue? And if something's going to be lost, right? Those are the things for you to use the queue, right? The solution architecture design on AWS. The compute layer will run in parallel across EC2s. The layer should scale based on the number of jobs being processed. The compute layer is stateless. The architecture must be loosely coupled. Which queue type should you use? So you're going to use the standard SQS to hold the jobs that need to be processed. You're going to create an EC2 auto scaling group to compute to work the messages. The scaling policy is what unique here. Instead of doing it, usually you do it off of CPU utilization. You're going to do it from the number of items in an SQS queue. You can tell your EC2 to scale at more Linux jobs from what's actually in your queue, right? So that's a little different about it. I think I got a slide with that coming up. So yeah, here at the top, usually you go say, okay, what's my CPU utilization? You're just saying how many messages in the queue is going to tell you how many EC2s you're going to need to scale. And two, you got to remember your scaling comes from your CloudWatch logs. So it takes a while for your EC2 numbers and requirements to get into your CloudWatch so it knows to auto scale. So if your CPU is 80%, it's going to take a while for that to get written to CloudWatch logs, so your auto scaling to happen to get more EC2s. So that's the reason it takes a while, right? So that's one reason you want to put it on the queues, because if you scale up real quick and you say, well, I need 50 servers, by the time that information gets into CloudWatch, your CPU is probably going to be at 90, right? And you're going to be struggling, right? So that's, once again, you put it on the queue, gives you time to scale out your auto infrastructure to actually work on those queues. So let me know if that answered your question, PB. I think that's all I got for today. Once again, it was SQS is a small service. It's powerful, but it's a small service. It's funny because PB came with that, but that's definitely something like at the bottom he could do, put it in the queue, have your lambda read it off. Then let me see. So yeah, 100 a week. I probably would, to be honest, I would probably just do S and call whatever you ever need to call to send out the emails. But if you looking for a good, like I said, good case study to get used to scaling it, I've been doing a lot of S. I got to start building more queues. That's actually not. I bought a course counter. They talk a lot about S, but it's not. There's hardly any queuing in there. So I don't know when I started studying for the professional architect. Maybe there's more queuing practices in there, but I do a lot of S. I don't do a ton of queuing in these practices yet. So SQS was first. SQS was the first service introduced for AWS for the public use. Oh, that's cute. I didn't know it was the first even. No, that's cool. But I know it was 2006, so I know it was one of the first. Which makes sense because a lot of companies were using queuing and they were trying to spin up between big systems. So you could definitely use Amazon SQS as a company. It's just weird now that everybody does a ton of stuff, and I'm sure Azure's got their queuing. I'm sure Google's got their queuing. Would you automate a customer service chat to be an example in which a queue can be? Yep. I would probably do that. Because after a while, your chat's gonna, especially if you got millions of people, yeah, I would definitely do chat. And I think there's an exercise in there where they were talking about doing chat. And I showed you, I got that guy from AWS. He's I want to say professor, but it's some high level title you get at AWS. And I bought a Udemy class on his, and he was actually talking about chat and using Q in their jam. Let me see. I might bring him up. I showed him before. Let me. Like I said, when I got my AWS interview, I got killed on. I was checking him out. I think he got his chat in there. I don't want him to distract me, but here's the guy. He's talking. I showed him before. On the side, he talks about microservices, the difference between load balancer, vertical, and around queues versus pub sub, RTR, and I think one of his high priority queuing right there. Let me make that a little bigger. So yeah, those are the things he talks about in this class. So check him. I think I paid $12 for it. So it was great. And I'm still gonna listen to it some more. Content based. Then here he was talking about if you were design something like YouTube versus Netflix, Twitter, what would that look like? And a lot of times, most of that stuff you had pub sub. If you would design WhatsApp versus Telegram versus Snapchat, Tinder, Uber. Tinder was interesting because he had a lot of artificial intelligence in Tinder. I was really surprised about that. But now most of these he talks about decoupling it with a queue. Once again, it's Rocking Systems. His name is Raj. Like I said, he's a fellow. I think they were calling him a fellow at AWS. He just got promoted. So real cool. So front end is the easiest to enter, in my opinion. Then focus on the back end, no full stack. No, I agree with that Himacheli. That's kind of how I usually start. I actually started with Java front end. Really, JSPs got a little better. Got with Java. Once I got Java, then I was doing Oracle before I actually did Java. So that's kind of how I got my full stack. And with Angular, Angular gives you a lot of widgets to start with, so you don't have to really polish it off when you're using Angular and those, because those really are JavaScript frameworks that gives you a lot of those pre-built widgets to use. Makes it a lot easier. Grout, it's not. John learned back in the same time as you were. No, that's true. That's true. I'm learning to React. Yep, React. I think React's right up there. Use this Angular or React. Those are the two big ones I use, and there was another one in. I think it was called Leaf. It was real big in Java and Spring. Now I gotta look up. Was it called Leaf? Now I gotta look up. Spring, was it Leaf? JavaScript. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping to do a little more. Probably at the middle of 2023, start doing is it Dime? There it is, Dime Leaf. So that's what I was really using before Angular and React got popular. I was using Thime Leaf, which is a Java built-in JavaScript. It's gonna make me a little bigger on that. So XML, HTML is kind of built in. So because you got to remember, I'm before Java. So when I really started doing Java, Oracle really killed Oracle Forms and Reports, and they were pushing everybody to Java. I want to say that was probably 2005. I started trying to use Theme Leaf. Um, so it talks about the Theme Leaf, the template engine, and how to use it, messages and variables. So today's date, do arithmetic on it. So that's what I was using as my Java framework. I'll let y'all know how I want to show you how old I've been into the game. So that's before React. So I used to do Java, and the frameworks I used were Spring and Hibernate for a full stack. And what they wanted, the Angular, before Angular and React was this. That's what they were pushing. I just remember Leaf and Thime. I was like, so that's what I was doing, when I got in there. So who's the teacher? Let me see. I've been following this guy here, Raj. It's called Rocking System Design. He's got 4 or 5 courses. To figure out, show more. Started learning AWS once he's Kubernetes, Lambda, EC2 Gateway. Once again, now he's like an AWS fellow. He's hot. And this the other guy. I'm following him. And the other guy I probably buy stuff from is I heard he's super hot. Is AWS DevOps. I'm hoping to start studying for that. This guy right here, Stefan. He seems to be pretty hot. I follow him on YouTube a lot. So him, and the other guy I really follow is AWS SQS. So his name, let me get y'all his name. His name is, I just show it, Stefan. He's kind of French. He's Stefan. Like I said, he's on YouTube. He's this stuff. Stefan Marek, Maarek. I'll put it in the queue. Let me. So for my DevOps stuff, I was gonna follow him. Let me go back to the other guys, get his name. Like I said, I had information interview for AWS. I'll probably do a video on that next week. It was weird. 6 hours on the hour that was technical. Most of that was him. I follow him, Neil Davis, a ton on. This is really who I follow on YouTube. Is him. There was some stuff he wasn't teaching that Stefan was teaching. So Neil Davis, that's really who I follow on YouTube for my AWS stuff. It's kind of like how he teaches. See, Neil Davis, him. So those are the. So just digging and once I said, just trying to get the cues, building stuff, trying to lab every day. So I probably take a little break and start labbing with cues and SNS. Shout out to PB. So kind of what he was bringing up. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of SNS, but combining those cues and actually lambdas and Dynamo DBs because there's kind of what AWS pushes, especially from a tutorial standpoint and architect standpoint. They love lambdas because they want you to go serverless. They love Lambda as a database because they want you to go NoSQL. Right. So, and you can Dynamo DB is serverless too. So a lot of stuff you set up and they manage all the infrastructure for you. And so a lot of stuff on exams, that's what they're pushing. So that's kind of what I've been practicing on. And I'm going to start labbing on these. Once I get a little better, I'll probably start doing my exercises online so y'all can see them. A lot of times I be struggling. So I want y'all to know that. Shout out to Struggle Security, Gabe. I was struggling a little bit on setting up my Oracle instance. It's working, but it ain't quite working. So I got to figure out what's going on. I don't know if it's me or I'm not giving enough big enough instance or memory. I'm looking for Azure teachers, by the way. Lab in Azure is cost effective. I guess cloud. Yeah, I always lab, man. When I do a lab, it's usually about $2 or $3 a day. Help me. So now you're cool with that. The ones I saw was I think that one guy. Let me see. I follow Neil guy. I think he has Azure too. He's got a team of people. So I like him. I just kind of been focusing on my AWS. But shout out to Tam. Probably next year I'll probably do a little more Azure because I think the future is multi-cloud. So I think that's where you need to be really. As long as you customize your VMS, etc. No, that's true. That's true. That's true. I pay 11 cents for Azure sub in a month, man. Oh man. Yeah, and two is mine would be cheaper is I just have my AWS account. I could switch it to something else and get back to the free tier because both Azure and Amazon, if your first year, you get the free tier, right? So if you came up with a new email, you could get on the free tier. So can you recommend any lab work for AWS? Yeah, I use Skillshare, which is part of the course I bought. So and I really like it. Well, it's called Skillable. This is who I use. Okay, so full platform. I use challenge. I'm on the Skillable. I put it in the chat. So I use Skillable, and I got the. They probably got Azure and Skillable too. The reason I'm struggling is I bought it through another course. I bought it through Neil's course so you could sign up for Skillable. The reason I know that I was having problems with one of my labs, I had to put in a ticket. So I use Skillable and I really enjoyed their labs. They were surprised because I actually bought it twice because I actually liked the labs. Some of them was so complicated. I passed the test. I was getting like 80% on a lab, right? But I could never get 100. And a lot of times if you don't get 100 in the real world, your application don't work. So they were surprised, so I bought it again. So like I said, I was getting 80. Even if you get a 90%, right? Your infrastructure still is not working. Something's about it's not configuring. I like it. I was getting, and obviously I passed the test. Once again, I got the associate architect, associate developer. I got the cloud practitioner, and I got the security specialty. course, I'm a security guy, so I got the security specialty. So I actually want to get, once again, I'm gonna take the SysOp probably in 3 weeks. Then I'm gonna take the architecture professional. Then I'm gonna take the DevOps professional. Then I'm a database guy, so I got to take the AWS database specialty. Everybody thinks I'm crazy when I say the database specialty. I love databases, so I got so many years with them. So I would like to take my practitioner. I would sign up for Neil's stuff, to be honest. I don't know what your budget is. It wasn't too bad. I did a lot of times. I don't really push a lot of people's stuff, but this is who I got, BB. So yeah, everybody in here is my type regulars, so I usually don't recommend a lot of people's stuff, but once again, it helped me out. So I'm not trying to hide anything. So this is what I'm using to use. It's digital cloud at the top. It's training. So there's practitioner, and I passed that one. I studied. Now, granted, I got years of experience when I took it. Wasn't nothing new, but it was just a little tweak. So this is what I took for mine. The practitioner, they give you you get instructor-led videos. We can walk through it. Go check out my man Theo too. I know he's giving some AWS. I don't want to slight him. I just never reached out to him. I need to reach out to him and check some of his stuff. So you get all these videos. So you get this is the practitioner. He actually added stuff too. Is this practitioner? It's oh my god, it's 17 sections now. You do everything, get started, cloud, AWS, IAM, the services for me was huge because man, AWS got a ton of service. Talk about storages, DNS, application, VPC, of course, that's your networking. Even though if you're a Network Plus, this is gonna help because you got to set up your networking inside your AWS VPC to get your routing between your EC2s, your Lambdas, and your database, right? You got to set up your network routing, deployment automation. I can't even talk. Database, man. So this is what I use. And once again, I recommend him. Once again, check out my man Theo. I haven't checked out his stuff. I need to go reach out to him. But this is what I use. And I think I can't remember what I paid, but you get it for a year. And then let's see. I'll check it out. Okay, too. Then let's check and two, a lot of the videos he has here, he has them free, but he stacks them all together. So when you're doing, like compute service, we can open up compute service. It's an hour. He's probably got, and I like his videos because they're short. They're like 15, 20 minutes. So inside his compute, let me make that a little bigger. Hell, I'm old and I can't see it. So let's make it big. So in this compute, you got basics, virtualization, EC2 through a wizard, connecting SSH, which I hate, RDP for Windows, user data, putting stuff in metadata, using your keys and your roles. These are new. He didn't have AWS and Batch Light Cell. Well, maybe he did. Docker. So he touches on all of these. And once again, this is the practitioner. So going through these videos, then we can look real quick. And I'll bring up one of the labs. Ooh, I don't know. Do I want to? Yeah, I'll bring it up for y'all. Because since I pay for them, you can only use them 3 times. That's my only, it's not a huge issue because when you log into their labs, they get charged, right? While you're in their labs. So maybe we can just peer into, let's back to practitioner. Let's see. What's the most difficult cert you ever taken in your CISP? Because I didn't pass. I missed it by 6 questions. CISP by far so far. I took a lot of certs off and on. I was Oracle certified, database. I took the Security Plus. I take that back. The AWS, nothing that compares. That CISP's a monster. CISP by 1,000%. Now I'm up in the tech next year. The CISP, the CISA, and the CRSC for risk in that. I'm hoping to take those 3. Me and Savage gonna get together and do a CISP joint thing together. And I've been hanging out with Cover Six. I don't know if y'all familiar with that. I'm in this Discord. I might teach that inside his Discord, so I'm debating. But once again, let's get back on two. Is they got the instructor led, then they got the practice test. I love these. These were spot on. When I took the test, there wasn't. I ain't gonna say they were exactly the questions, but they were so close. Let me make this a little smaller now so I can see it. I'm clicking all over. Let's go back. Let's look at start off one of the practice tests. I love the practice test. That's kind of my thing. We'll look at one of the practice tests. Those were some of the questions I was showing at the end. Was the practice test? I thought those were awesome. Like I said, and I don't recommend a lot of people in my life. So once again, I'm and to the because I'm old, I know how I learn. So this is right in the pocket of how I learn. So we'll start one of the practice tests in the practitioner. Let's see. That's the lead. That's the reviewer. Class to practice exam. See, they just added the reviewer. I ain't know. Now they got a 5-hour review, right? This is the beginning one. You getting your feet wet. So, but still though, I would say I would learn probably 60% of it. Because some of those services were just super new to me. They have so many services. And two is if you look over here, I like how to break them down. They got knowledge where each one they just drill on specific knowledge. I really like these. The trainer exams, when you take them, we're going to start one now. As soon as you answer the question, it gives you the answer. Then it gives you all the possible things and why they weren't correct. And the exam practice ones, they don't give you the answer right away. So it's like you're really taking a practice exam. So you get it's probably 400 questions in here. So you get 5 knowledge exams where you hitting each domain. Then you get the training one. Then you get the practice exam. Then you get one final simulator, which is really like the exam. So when I sat for the exam, I was super comfortable. I felt like taking these exams got me ready. The only thing I didn't like is you could take it at home. I'm always just worried something's gonna happen. Somebody gonna say I cheated. So I just like going to and it's super close to my house. I actually go to the actual test center. So then I don't have to worry about anybody saying anything. A lot of times I heard if you're at home, you can't go to the bathroom. It was some weird. So I like going to a practice center. So I went to the practice center and we're going to start I love the training one. Like I said, we're going to answer a couple of these. Now my man Neil, man, I'm going to have to ask him for that 20% referral fee. Now I'm just playing. Now shout out to y'all. I want everybody to pass, man, because there's just so much money in this space, man. I want y'all to come and get it, man. So let's look at what it'll look like. Once again, you start it. Then at the top, you say what advantage does a database administrator obtain by using Amazon RDS database? It's a 99% reliability and durability. RDS database automatically scales on load, simplifies relational database administration tasks, or the RDS users to dynamically adjust CPU. And what is the advantage of it? Simplified database type shit. I think all of those are good, man. What's the man? All of those are good, man. So let's answer one. Let's get on simplified. I'm trying to find what we going. What we picking, y'all? Administrator. Okay, we're gonna be administrator. Simplified. Let's see. Oh, I got it right. I'm lucky. So the 2, when you go in here, it says the RDS is managed relational database service, which you can run several types of databases. It's managed so you can reduce the database task and administration would normally take. It says why. Then it tells you why the other ones were incorrect. RDS databases automatically scale based on load is incorrect. This is not true. The storage auto scaling is possible, but for compute, it scales by changing instances type manually. RDS, it was 89 nines. Reliable is incorrect. This is not true for RDS. There's probably four nines. RDS is enabled users to dynamically adjust CPU is incorrect. You cannot adjust CPU and RAM dynamically. You must change the instance type to reboot, right? Then two is he gives you a cheat sheet that you pay for with Digital Cloud, where he actually goes over each one of those in his cheat sheet so you can get better. So once again, I dropped the link if y'all want to come up, and so that's it. That's why I picked this. I think it was he's always has a sale. Like he just had a 40% off Halloween's. I feel bad. I should have told y'all earlier. He just had a Halloween sale, so he probably have a Thanksgiving sale. He probably have a Thanksgiving sale. I pass entry Azure, but I still feel like not. Oh no, I feel that same way, Jam. I passed. I got 4 AWS certs. I got an interview for AWS. Man, they was tearing me up, man. So now, the certification is just one level of just getting your feet wet. When you actually do this stuff in real life, right? It's different, right? When people staring at you and you got to figure out how you want to scale up, then people are yelling at you. Okay, what's the best way? What's your best? Then people start attacking what you design, right? You got to be able to defend that. And I like that time comes with labbing and actually doing it. Like I did my labs one yesterday, and long story short, a security role got stuck in an inconsistent state, right? So I had to figure out how to run a CLI, which is a command line script, to get it in a consistent state to be able to apply a security role. That stuff doesn't happen usually in the labs, or definitely not gonna happen with you taking a paper test. That's that stuff when you when you doing stuff for real and you're in the environment, especially when you're in a production environment. Programmers are doing stuff, sysops are doing stuff you're not hip to, developers and DevOps are setting up stuff in different ways, and you learn stuff, right? So that's when you really learn, right? So, but two is though, it's all baby steps, right? Certs, lab, and production. But at the same time, though, you got to get experience to get experience, right? So all that kind of rolls up. So, but that's me giving a shout out to probably. I bet you they will, PB. So probably I might reach out to him, man. See if I can get y'all some. I might see if I can reach out to him and get y'all some discounts, man. You should add affiliate links. Yeah, I am gonna add affiliate links. Hellman, I kept saying once I get to 3,000 subscribers, I'm gonna do a membership and affiliate links, because I think I'm gonna do that book club, because we were talking about weapons of mass destruction and a couple of those. I think I'm gonna do a book club off of that, so y'all can hit the affiliate links and get the digital book. So that's coming in the future, Hellman. I appreciate that, man. Support me when I put out my affiliate links. That's coming. That's coming. I was just letting my subscriber base get a little bigger, Helmet, a little bigger. But no, that's it. Y'all got any questions about digital cloud? Then two is I won't start it because let me see. Then two is when you're in the watch the videos at the end of each video. In this video series, at each segment, he has a lab, and when you click on the labs, you can figure out which ones you want to take. And once again, here, let me see. I'm just gonna click on Challenge Lab. I think he's got Azure Challenge Labs. He could be a little pricey. I can't remember what I played for him. So I got the AWS Challenge Labs. That's what I paid for. What are the challenges? Practical, no build. Like I said, no surprises on the build. They give you a time limit, of course, to finish the labs. But I really like the labs. Like I said, I like them so much I bought them twice. Two is he's got AWS. Shout out to him. And he's got the Azure. Probably once I get my AWS where I needed to be, I probably definitely get in containers and Kubernetes. They got VMware, O365. Shout out to Linux. We always talk about Linux. So he's got Linux labs for TAM, NIM. So that's part of that Scalable. I think when you do this, you're actually signing up for Scalable on the back end. They probably got some agreement. So his course is using Scalable. So that's what I use. Let's see. Have you read Extreme Privacy? I have not. I heard about it, JM. So I probably need to get that on my book list. I have not. Shout out to the chat. I appreciate you for coming through, boys. But now, so that's what I've been using for my let me put that on my list. So that's all I got for y'all today. But once again, I'll give a shout out to the Cloud. I'm gonna have to get affiliate link. Get the affiliate link. Yeah, I probably need to go check that out. Like I said, I think I'm gonna start doing book reviews. I think I'm gonna start squeezing that in there. Definitely, I think that's gonna be my 2023. I'm gonna add to the channel. Get the book reviews in there. I gotta figure out when I'm gonna be reading books. Shout out to me. That's all I got, man. It's Sunday. I want everybody to have a great week. Once again, I'm 55 out here still learning, man. So once again, this is kind of what I've been on my grind. Let's see real quick. He didn't. Let's see. He I was gonna see. So these are the things. He's got the cloud practitioner, solution architect, developer associate, sysops, solution architect professional, DevOps, advanced networking, especially machine learning and security. Right. So I got security, cloud, associate, architect, associate developer. I'm sitting for this probably in 2 weeks, the sysops. Then I'm hoping to get these 2 pros. Right. So that's kind of my goal for 2022. I'm kind of running out of time. I had a bad month. A lot of stuff came up, but it's all good. It's part of the game. Once again, I'm out. Everybody have a great week. Keeping learning, man. Bag out here to get. Go check out so many great people in the space. And you got anything for me? Let's see what JM got. If you're labbing every day, folks, I try to laugh every day. The cool thing is my job, the way it's scheduled, I got a little leeway. So right now, I've been trying to pick a lab. And 2 is inside his classes, he does hands-on learning while he does it in the video. So sometimes I'll go back and do that as a lab, right? And just do it on my dime. But like him, it's usually like $5 or $6 if I do a live, right? Just go through and pick it. To us, he actually has a boot camp. I'm debating if I actually want to do the boot camp. So check out my man. Greeting cannot stay. Just want to say the Raiders are trying to fire it over. Shout out to Cal. I'm glad you came by, man. Shout out to him. Thanks for the support. Check me out on the replay. So yeah, the coach, we done went through our rookie quarterback, so I think we kind of given up on the year, man. So I feel you on that. But I'm out. So go check my man out. Those are the 3 people I follow. I put their names in the chat. ProfessorBlackOps@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. Give me a couple days to answer. When I used to be a professor for 10 years, they give you 48 hours to answer emails. So give me a couple days. I'm usually on it, but some days I usually just don't get it. But once again, I'm trying to lab every day. Shout out to PB. If you have problems setting it up, man, hit the like. Reach out to me, PB, if you had any questions about physically setting that up. If you in the chat still, like I said, I've set up something similar with that without the queue. We just did the SNS set up. SNS actually calling a Lambda that would actually insert in the database. So you can have that Lambda actually re-email out the stuff you were sending out. I think you had a bulletin. So a couple ways to set that up, PB. Just let me know. 2 is, like I said, I'm labbing working on my cloud front, which is caching my S3 bucket as a static website. So that's what I'm working on this week. Professor Black Ops, the old people interviewing. Let me slide over so y'all can see the PBO sign. Man, that's bright. Shout out to the PBO sign. I got to get the soft lighting on the PBO sign, man. That white be white hot. Shout out to the PBO sign that's lighting my studio up. I got to get me a circle light. That's what I'm getting myself for Christmas. So, learning brute force. Shout out to Bose. Shout it out, man. Sometimes, they got in there. So I'm kind of liking you, man. I'm gonna see how much his boot camp is. He's pushing boot camp. So if it ain't too bad, I'll let y'all know. If I get in it, I'll let y'all know. So I'm thinking about. There's just some things I feel comfortable about it, but there's just like once again is I'm killing the labs, but I'm not getting 100%. If you don't get 100%, it's not working, right? There's something not configured right. That in real life, you got to get 100% or it won't work. So So I'm debating maybe taking this boot camp. That way I can get access to some people. The cool thing is I like doing it like this because I'm comfortable. I understand. So when I'm in a boot camp, I can focus on stuff at the minute level, right? I can focus on detail. A lot of times when you take a boot camp, if you starting from the bottom or the mud, you trying to learn so quick, right? And in the boot camp, sometimes it's hard to keep up, right? This where I think I'm getting at a certain level. When I get to the boot camp, I'll be really able to, polish off my skill level to where it needs to be. So that's just my thought pattern. Once again, people do a lot of different ways. And two is I'm old, so most of these I've done on prem before. It's just how you doing in the cloud. How do you secure it? Compliance. Can you do HIPAA, FedRAMP, blah blah with it, right? So that's it. Once again, hit me up, professorbblackops@gmail.com. I try to stay on top of my emails. Oh boy. Yep, try hack me's too. I want to try hack me. I started it. I need to finish it. So I like, even as a blue team guy, I like try hack me because my job is to secure it. So I like to see how people are going to attack me in real life. So I know when I lock that down, if I'm locking the thing down properly, right? So on my main helmet. Yeah, boot camp's hitting the ground running, so prep is the key. Yeah, so I feel like I'm getting to a certain. Two is with me passing the certs, right? I know I have a decent understanding of the service and the technology and the practice of using it, right? But in a boot camp, these are supposed to be experts. So then that way I can find out they're experts. I can start grilling them, right? Because in my mind, I've done a lot of this on prem. So my thought, how would I set that up in the cloud? Like PB, should that be an SNS? Should that be a queue? Should that be some other technology? Could I do it in a database, save all that threading and just, suck into the database, right? And in the database, you're using your credits up, right? So you don't want to use too much database power, right? Because you're using up your credits. So what's the best place to do it and why, right? So those are some of the nuanced stuff that hopefully I will get out of boot camp. So, but that's it. Once again, Professor Black Ops, my old butt about to take a nap. Everybody have a great weekend. Let's get it. It's the holidays here. Hell, Thanksgiving's almost here, man. So I'm gonna be like everybody else. 2023, I'm going on a diet. Me and the rest of the country. That's my oldest friend. I appreciate that, boys, man. I appreciate it. It is. You are correct, man, and I can't complain, man. I'm trying to get this AWS to get this last 10 years so I can slide on in retirement, man. I'll be 55 in December. Once again, I'm out. Professor Black Ops. Everybody have a great week. Reach out to me. I'm gonna be collabing with everybody, so I'm gonna be collabing with. So you'll see a lot of people. Before the Billions just interviewed me, so I'll be sharing it in my community tab shortly. I'm sure he's editing it up, so you'll see that come out. Go check my man out. I'm out. Everybody.